So 1412 is a song that I wrote after hearing about the events of December 14th, 2012. And most of us will remember those tragic events. December 14th, 2012, when a really disturbed young man walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School and shot and killed 20 school children, kindergarten children, as well as I think it was six adults, teachers and teachers' aides. And I just remember being absolutely heartbroken about it and grieving. And I really believe that the arts and music, they help us to grieve. They help us to articulate kind of what we're feeling. Sometimes it's hard to put into words what we're feeling, but this was very much the case for me when I just sat down and I was trying to process, like, how could this happen? And so this song is very much a wrestling with God song, I think, and it's a lament. One of the things I love about Scripture is that we're really permissioned to lament. Like, in fact, we see it all over the place in the Psalms. There's so many of the Psalms are written that way, and so this song is very much just saying, like, how can this be? How could this have happened? And the bridge is kind of maybe a theological wrestling for me as well. I just remember someone saying, you know, these children were called home too early, and I remember just really wrestling with that and saying, were they called home or were they sent home? Like, it doesn't seem to me like, did God really, was this part of His plan? It doesn't make sense to me as a Christian. I don't see that, and I know that there's lots of different ways of looking at God's sovereignty and how does this all work. But for me, I think it was just very much like a song where I'm just asking a lot of questions. And again, the book of Job in the Bible is a book that it does a lot of things, but one of the things that it definitely does is it permissions us to ask questions and to really wrestle with God. Job does it constantly, and of course in the end God is like, hey, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? But he doesn't say that Job's not allowed to ask the questions, and we see that Job really is able to ask. And so that's what 1412 is for me, and it's just a wrestling with God and saying, why, how could this be? Our hearts are breaking. And I guess in some ways I feel like the best answer is the last line of the song before we go into the kind of closing bridge, which is, I heard our Father crying. And maybe that's sort of the best response that we can give. It's what we know. We know that Jesus weeps with us, and when Lazarus dies, even though Jesus is about to raise him from the dead, he still weeps. It's tragic and it's wrong. And so, yeah, that's 1412. It's a tough one, but it was kind of an important part of my grieving process through that tragic event.
I heard our Father crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying.